All right, here we go now. 2 hot stove shows remain. Stephen Strom alongside Kyle Sielaff. Great to have you aboard here. We have an awesome show ahead as we are approaching Fan Fest on February 8th. First spring training game, February 22nd. A deep and distinguished guest list that'll feature 2016 All Star Closer AJ Ramos and Marlins Field Coordinator Aaron Leanhardt. But before it all, we set foot on our adventure on a celebratory note combined with some sadness because we'll miss him here at Marlins Radio. And yes, Kyle, I'm getting right into it. Kyle Sielaff is now the new television voice and face of the Miami Marlins, man. Congratulations. What's going on?
Thank you. It's been overwhelming, the amount of people that have reached out. Didn't expect it. It is fulfilling. It's overwhelming. It's almost a little embarrassing for me because I think anybody that knows me, Steve, and I just love baseball. I don't like the attention, but I love broadcasting, and I love this team. I love this franchise that has been so very good to me. We can talk about this if you'd like.
I'm ready to have a therapy session. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't looking for a therapeutic session.
I know you wouldn't. I know. But this is it. This is the last therapy session you have to do with me because you're no longer with me anymore.
Right. But I have really good news. Breaking news. I'll actually be with you next week, too. So we can, okay.
We can delay the big grand finale ending, but I did make a montage that I'm going to share.
No, here's what I will say. I joined this organization fresh out of college. When I graduated in December of 2012, 6 weeks later, I joined the Miami Marlins as an intern. I've worked my butt off for years, never knew what the future would hold, but I was never looking to go anywhere. Like, it was never like, I'm going to see what I can accomplish here, and then I'm going to try to go somewhere else. Obviously, things have led to where they are today. I just, the thing that has been hard for me, because it's so exciting, like, I'm going to do television. That's amazing. Like, I'm so pumped about this opportunity.
Amazing.
I can't, and only you'll really know this and some of the people that I work closely with. And I'm going to just, first off, start with a blanket thank you, dude. I would be here for so very long if I started to thank everybody that's helped me along the way. We would be here for an hour. And I just want to say thank you to anybody that's ever had a little part of my journey and that will continue to. But when I started in 2013, I really didn't know like what was in store for me, but I hit the ground running doing a pregame show. I'll never forget the Miami Marlins opened the 2013 season in Washington, D.C., and I did my first ever pregame show. And some years later, I got an opportunity to do some play-by-play. And then 2023, I took on the play-by-play full-time. I've been with you for 2 years, and now I'm venturing off a couple of boosts down, but not going anywhere. The one thing that people never saw because they didn't need to care about this is how much pride I took in the administrative side of our work and making sure that the broadcast department was running. We're not on air every single night if there are certain things we don't do during the course of the day to make sure we can get on air. It's funny, I say this now, but when new ownership took over in 2018, I was obviously like, I love doing the pregame show, but what's next? I'd love to travel with the team. And I've told you this story, and I've told some people this story, Stephen. I lied to them. I was like, hey, I can engineer. I can do this. Yes, of course I can. Of course I can do this. It's a piece of cake.
Sure.
I had no idea what I was doing. I spent that entire offseason up in that radio booth pretending to set up broadcast equipment until I knew that I could get myself on the air. But, I care so deeply about the broadcast department. It's in great hands with yourself and whoever comes in next. I wouldn't have left that to you if I didn't think you could handle that, obviously. And I've told you that, and I'll shut up here in a second. But the hardest thing for me is leaving something that people had no idea that I was doing that I cared so deeply about. Like nobody will know how much I cared about the live reads and features and making sure that it was correct every night. And that the commercials you were hearing during the commercial breaks that most people don't care about were correct. That's the stuff that I care deeply about. I loved running the department. Even though it was stressful at times trying to do the play-by-play, I just got used to it, man. And that's what I'm really going to miss. What excites me the most is I'm going to be around a ton. Literally nothing is going to change for me. The Marlins and FanDuel have welcomed me to really work with everybody and be around the office and see people I've been with for a long time, come hang out in the radio booth, obviously do some shows with you, and you guys want me around. So I'm pumped. I'm humbled. It's been, like I said, a little embarrassing. I don't know even what to say other than thank you. And I know I'm relatively emotionless about this stuff, but it's because I just don't want to disappoint anybody that's believed in me to date. Like, and I'm ready to start this next journey and just absolutely try to crush it and
Yeah.
make the Miami super proud. So it's really not too emotional for me. It's been hard knowing that I'm giving up the stuff that nobody ever saw because I love doing that. But I'm so pumped about what's next, dude, and just looking forward to not disappointing, like making the people that have banked on me now proud. So that's where it's at, dude. I don't really know what else to say to you other than that.
Yeah, we've always promised authenticity on here, at least to the furthest extent that we can go. And I have a couple of things to say because first, I'm super proud because you're self-made and you talked about that journey. And I hope this isn't boring to everyone, but this is our show. And now this is my show. Damn it. So, I think it's important for people to understand that you didn't have a last name that carried any weight. No offense to Pete and your entire family in broadcast. I don't have a name that carries any weight in broadcast. You built this thing from 2013 to a pregame show to administrative stuff, and people really don't understand how much that goes into this. Like, we don't just broadcast the games. And in no way, shape, or form am I yammering or anything like that. This is an absolute blessing. But what comes with that is a real deep purpose, that emotional attachment to the commercials, to the sky view, to working hand in hand with partnerships. Like, there's a real connection there that goes beyond just us going on at 6:10 for pregame and 6:40 for you for the first inning. It goes far beyond that. It really goes to another level of care and meaning. And I think that's what you're sort of referring to. So, when people are just listening and people are following on Twitter, you're not just doing the innings 1 to 9. I'm not just doing the pregame show. We're doing the things, the nuts and bolts of the broadcast, and we love it. And that's what we do. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. And I said this to a couple people, the voice is going to change, and you are irreplaceable. I'm just going to be upfront and honest about that. We're going to try our damn best to try to get someone in here that can capture the passion, the energy, and really connect with the fan base. But, there's really no way of replacing what we've had the last 2 years. And we're going to try our best. But I think all in all, man, the fact that you did this from the ground up, and I'm going to speak on the behalf of you. Kyle was never trying to undercut anyone or never had these alternate agendas. Like, even the radio gig, man, like that it just happened. It wasn't like you knocking on the door. Hey, can I get full time? Can I get 162? No. And it didn't. And it certainly didn't happen with this. I mean, if you were to tell me that you'd be going to TV, even less than 6 months ago, I would have called you crazy. I would have been like, really, you think? And it has nothing to do with your thing. It has nothing to do with your ability, Kyle. We all believe in you. We all know that you're great at this. But I think it goes back to, like, there's some shady people in this industry. There is that at every turn, try to undercut you, is this your last? What do you think about next year? You think this is going to, you did none of that. So how you got to this point, you should be proud of. And I think that really captures what at least I want to say to you on this.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Like, I appreciate that stuff. The only thing I would say to me not being replaceable is that my hope is that I am, because I care a lot about this organization, and I hope that whoever comes in next is even better. And I have told you privately, and I'll tell you publicly when we're doing this, like, I have challenged you to make sure that nothing goes backward, but it only goes forward. That everything that I built over 10 years, that you find a way to make it even better. That you and whoever your broadcast partner is permanently moving forward, that person is better than I ever was. And you guys find new and innovative ways to continue to do this thing, because, like, I try to think of it, I kind of laid a foundation, but now your goal is to make it better. It just won't go backwards, but now you make it better. Somebody's going to come in there and do a better job than I ever did at the play-by-play. Somebody's going to come in there and do things better, and you guys are going to podcast better than we ever have. And you're going to find a way to make this StreamYard even better. That's got to be the goal, because I think that's the direction it's headed. That's what I'm so proud of everything really about. And that's why, honestly, it's not like this was a decision maker, but, when talking to people and, talking to our bosses, I told them, like, I can tell you with utmost certainty that Stephen has this thing in good hands, and it's only going to continue to get better. You guys are responsible for that, but I'm pumped for you. I'm pumped for whoever comes in. But don't call me irreplaceable, because the next guy that comes in there, his goal is to be better. Your goal is to be better every year.
Sure.
And like I've told you over and over again, I'm here for whatever you guys need. The great thing is I'm 2 booths down. I'm not packing my life in a moving van going to a different city or state. And dude, it's going to be great. Everybody's going to, we'll see. Literally nothing's going to change, except I just won't be on the radio at 6:40 every night. And I'll bring my energy over to the TV and do things my way and get a bunch of help along the way. And that's all I got, man, honestly.
You know what I'm pumped for?
What?
This montage that I made. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the last 2 years of Kyle Sielaff and a little bit of Stephen Strom.
Opening day 2023 on the radio, where this afternoon the Miami Marlins have a date with the New York Mets as we set sail on the 30th season in franchise history. So with that, we say a very pleasant good afternoon from inside the broadcast booth here at Lone Depot Park, alongside my broadcast partner Rod Allen and the newest member of our broadcast team in 2023, Stephen Strom. I'm Kyle Sielaff. It's about time we welcome back baseball, and it's time to usher in a new era of Marlins baseball. Now, things are going to sound a little bit different here on the radio this season. I would personally like to thank Glenn Geffner for a decade of his mentorship, and I hope you'll join me, along with the rest of our sensational team on the radio here in 2023. All right, let's say hello now to the newest member of our broadcast team in 2023, Stephen Strom. You'll hear Stephen every single night on Marlins on Deck after wins and losses, in your car or at home, following every single game with Marlins Rewind. Stephen, you're going to be fantastic, and on behalf of everybody here at the Marlins, we say welcome to Miami.
I appreciate it, Kyle. Happy opening day to everyone here in the booth and in Miami, man. I'm super excited for the opportunity, and let's have some fun, man. Game 1 of 62.
How about throwing this guy right into the fire? He signs a deal to join the Marlins radio network about 24 hours ago. Here he is hosting Marlins on Deck this afternoon. But before I turn you loose here and feed you to the wolves, I know you followed the team closely this offseason. What's most intriguing to you about this 2023 Marlins club?
Yeah, I think that the blend of the vets that have been in deep playoff runs like Gene Segura and Euler Gurriel, and then the young guns ready to pounce like Jazz and Luis Arraez. I think that blend is very intriguing to me. How this mixes this season, where can that balance take them? I think that's the big question, especially with the first-year manager. I think the Marlins, if they play their cards right, can find that perfect balance of keeping it fresh, and then you've got the veterans to hold players accountable. So that's what I think I'm most intrigued about coming into this season.
The count is 1-2 to Joey Wendell, bottom of the 9th inning. There goes Hampson. The pitch is dribbled towards Hicks. He's got it. He's going to throw it to first. He threw it away. Hampson's going to score. Going towards third, Gurriel. He's going to try to score. He's going to score. The Marlins just walked off the Cardinals in the bottom of the 9th inning. An error from Jordan Hicks. Oh, my goodness, they've done it again. They have done it again. The Marlins win it 10-9.
Just when you thought you saw everything, you just see everything.
First pitch to De La Cruz. Ground ball fair! That's a fair ball for De La Cruz, rolling down the left field line. One run is going to score. Birdie's going to try to score. Throw comes in towards the plate. Not in time. You got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. Birdie scores. Throw comes in towards third now. De La Cruz is at third base. The Marlins have stormed all the way back. Down 5-1 going to the top of the 8th inning. They've done it again. 3 runs in the top of the 9th. The Marlins lead 6-5. Holy cow! First pitch to De La Cruz. Ground ball fair! That's a fair ball for De La Cruz, rolling down the left field line. One run is going to score. Birdie's going to try to score. Throw comes in towards the plate. Not in time. You got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. Birdie scores. Throw comes in towards third now. De La Cruz is at third
lead 6-5. Holy cow!
3-2 the count to Rodriguez. Scott comes set, and the pitch is swung on and missed. Strike three. There it is. They've done it. The drought is over. 20 years of waiting has come to an end here in Pittsburgh. It's time to party in Miami. They spill out onto the field here at PNC Park as 25,000 look on here in Pittsburgh tonight. What a scene! What a scene! The Marlins beat the Pirates 7-3. They are postseason bound in 2023.
Stephen does an amazing job, and I know he and I are going to work together for a really long time.
And then on top of that, then I look and I see that Stephen is injured. He's a sprained ankle or what? I don't
Grade
know what
3.
happened.
It's a grade 3 sprain, Abe.
Come on, man. You guys need to get your act together. You said 8 weeks to go. Right?
Don't tell me to get my act together, Abel. This guy's doing private basketball runs. He's washed up, rolled an ankle, and we'll start with Monday Night Football last night. We did this last week on your home for Miami Dolphins football, Fox Sports 940. We'll start with the Vikings loss last night to the Chicago Bears. Go ahead. The floor is yours, Steve.
No, I'm all right, fine. I'll be really quick.
No, we don't need to do that. I just really
I don't want to
to
talk about it.
No, well,
I
they
called
win.
you last night.
Right.
What did I called you last night, and you said I sounded nervous.
Yeah.
I actually what? I said, if we don't turn the ball over, we'll win this game. What do? They turn it over.
See, you're
4
doing
times.
it again. You're trying to start your radio show.
Nope,
Stephen and I.
It's okay.
I just can't smile. Now some people say happiness takes so very long to find. While finding it hard, leaving your love behind me.
It's,
You were muted.
congratulations.
What? That was.
Congratulations. What'd you think?
Yeah, I got some thoughts. The editing in the middle, we did the White Sox highlight twice. Did you just not watch back any of your work that you did?
So the good part is
Did you watch that back once? Did it ever dawn upon you had the same thing going twice?
Yes, it did actually. When I saw it twice, I'm like, oh yeah, this was 2 separate plays. Because I remember we tied it and then we took the lead. So I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. So no, I didn't, but I could edit that. So whatever. But you know what's the beauty of me, right? You know, unapologetic and authentic. You know, did you send something in the private chat here? What'd you put in here? This is quite something, Steven.
I don't even know what to say.
What is there to say? Just be happy. It's beautiful, man. I'm on the verge of tears. What's your favorite part?
I don't really know, Steven, to be honest. I don't really know what I just watched. I don't know what I just kind of witnessed for the last 5 minutes.
Memory lane, just you and I, man. You know,
just you and I. You and I welcoming you on in 2023. I mean, what a way to end it. You and I walking in the parking garage. I mean, I have really good news. I'm not dead. I'm not going anywhere. The congrats, but I thought it was going to be like a rest in peace at the end. I don't know what I don't know what to expect. I thank you know what, Stephen? I will simply thank you for putting the time and effort to do that. And now if I can get back to the way that only I know, if I was privately talking to you, I would say, Stephen, how about you spend a little less time on stupid stuff like this and more time on the administrative side, which I think you probably appreciate too.
Yeah, but now you're not my boss, so I can do what I want.
Well, I'll let you know when I'm not. You know what? I'll let you know when I'm not.
Whatever. Listen.
Onward. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You know, I don't want to see myself. I don't want to hear myself.
I get it.
You know,
that's what's so ironic about this job is it represents everything you don't like about everything. You don't like
but the one thing that makes me comfortable in life as a totally introverted human being is when I put on a headset and I can talk baseball. So that's what I love.
You're going to get that.
I don't know if I can continue on with this. I should have grabbed Kleenex. I don't know what to do.
I got a closing question, then we'll move forward with our interview because we have just such a fun program ahead for everyone. We're going the distance too. What are you laughing at?
Just
There's no one in your life that can make you laugh as much as I make you. That's what I've noticed because I've been around you every single day.
To be honest with you, there's one person.
Who?
It's my sister.
Okay, then your sister and me are the only ones, or your sister and I, whatever the proper grammar is the only ones that can really make you chuckle like that. Let me ask you this. Let me leave you with this. What are you going to miss the most about the radio?
The simplicity of it. But the one thing that excites me the most is working with a team on the television. That's amazing. Like putting that product together and people. Dude, I honest to God, I can't say this enough, and I'm not trying to deflect anything. I hate talking about me, but the one thing I love to do is give other people credit. And the one thing on television that's amazing for me is like, dude, there's 60 or 70 people that are working on these shows every night. And like, I know you hear me and whoever I'm working with and Kelly or the sideline reporter, and that's all people really hear. But I just honestly, man, like, I don't even know if I'm going about this the right way. I want to highlight everybody that never gets the recognition they deserve to make us look and sound the way we do throughout the course of 7 months. That's what's awesome to me. I know they're very different things, right? The simplicity of radio where it's just the three of us, man. We're all we have all year long. There's not somebody in your ear talking, but that's what excites me about this new journey. I'm proud to work with a team, whether it's a small one like the radio or now a big one like television. The one thing that is really awesome to me that I cannot stress enough is that I'm still with the organization and all these camera people that have seen me when I was 21 interning,
I know.
walking around. Yeah. It's those same people that are still doing the audio and the camera work. And I can't wait to joke with them. I'm like, your worst nightmare has now come true right now. You never thought I'd make it, boys and girls. And now look at me. Now you got to hear me every night. So, that's what's so awesome to me. I have a sense of humor like that. It's just funny how things happen. And I don't know. I'm going to miss you, man. We've got 2 great interviews tonight, Stephen. I can't do this much more about myself. I'm tapped out.
I'm going to miss you, and I'm going to miss doing these shows. And now the waterworks are starting to come a little bit. So I'm going to send it off to you.
Before our AJ Ramos interview, you want to do that?
Yeah, I'm just going to send you right now, man. Thanks
all
for your time.
All right. Go grab a Kleenex, folks. We'll be back in 25 minutes.
All right.
Okay, before we welcome on our first guest of the night, it's a special one. It's a former Marlin. It's AJ Ramos. Wanted to remind everybody, and boy, we've been talking about this, Stephen, for a couple of months, but Monster Jam, it's the big weekend, brother. The big weekend.
Yep, finally.
It's finally, we've been talking about it since like Thanksgiving time. We've been promoting Monster Jam. It's at Lone Depot Park this Saturday and Sunday. If you're watching, if you're on your phone, you see the QR code, make sure you scan. But I know they're expecting a couple of really nice crowds this weekend. So remember, Monster Jam is back in Lone Depot Park this week.
Yep, I'll be there. I will.
You will?
Be there.
You promise?
I promise.
All right, very good. You won't let me down. Well, let's welcome on our first guest of the show tonight. There he is. He was one of my favorite Marlins. He was an All-Star in 2016, spent parts of 9 seasons in the big leagues, pitched in over 380 games, pitched to the tune of a 3.04 ERA over the course of his big league career. It is former Marlins closer, AJ Ramos. AJ, it is great to see you, man. How is life? How's post-baseball life? You look great, dude.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on. And I got a question. Is the roof going to be open or closed for that Monster Jam? You guys know about that?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. Did you ever go?
Man, no. Well, I never went to the ones in Miami, but whenever I was younger, they would come to Texas when I was living in Texas. And man, I used to love going to those Monster Jams. They're one of my favorite things to go to. Gravedigger was one of my favorites.
That'll be there.
Yeah, I remember Stone Cold Steve Austin came to Lubbock, Texas because of the Monster Jam or whatever. So I got to meet Stone Cold there. So that was a big part of my childhood, is wanting to actually be a monster truck driver. So now that I'm retired, I mean, maybe I can start crushing cars, man. But life has been good after, man. I have 2 beautiful daughters now. I just had so I have my second daughter December 18th. So I'm still in that newborn phase where I'm not getting very much sleep, but everything has been great so far, man. I'm enjoying it, and I'm actually glad that I had kids when I did, because I get to be a full-time dad, and spend a maximal time with my babies. So everything always seems to work out the way it's supposed to.
Well, it's great to see you, man. I was chatting with Steven a little bit, and it's funny because you mentioned the Monster Jam stuff. Do I recall? Weren't you a big wrestling guy? Do I remember that? You and Tom Kohler would be talking wrestling. What? Yeah, okay. I thought so.
Man, I used to love wrestling, man. I mean, me and my brother we had a trampoline in the back, and we would do wrestling moves. Even though, I mean, kids don't do that, you can get hurt. I was a professional wrestler back then. I watched everything. So it was fun, man. I loved the storylines and stuff. I also, later on in my career, I was like, man, we should start like fake beef with other players. So like when they come to the stadium, I'm like, I got beef with you, brother, and then the entrances would be really dope too, so like I had a crazy imagination, but I loved it all back then.
So AJ, you were an all-star, like Kyle mentioned, spent 6 seasons with the Marlins, and you've transitioned into a media career. Did you ever think you were gonna get into the podcast space and the broadcast space?
So throughout my career, I give interviews, and I gave a little bit more than some guys, I guess. So I always got the people would tell me like, you'd be good on, in the media space after this. You have personality. So it was kind of like implanted in my mind throughout my career. And then once I was done, after a year, at about a year out, I did like a radio hit at a career development program that the MLBPA puts on. And the guys there were like, listen, you can work right now for us. So, and then they told me that like how it all works out. I mean, I get to work from home. I get to talk about baseball, and it's not, it's perfect for my life right now. Again, I want to prioritize, most of my life I spent, prioritizing my career, to where that was the main thing of my life. And now at this half of my life, I want to start prioritizing, family more. So this type of job, as of right now, where I stand right now, allows me to continue to prioritize my family. So, but I'm open to, as I'm getting into it, I'm open to do even more. Obviously, with anything that I do, I want to be one of the best at it. So the only way you can be one of the best at it is if you do it, get more reps. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes.
What a beautiful way to look at life, AJ. And I also pulled up some of your highlights. I'm hoping we get to talk over this, and I think we do.
Yeah.
Just when you're watching some of these, and for our StreamYard viewers, we're just playing some of AJ's saves from his All-Star year. But what's going through your mind when you're watching some of these highlights?
Man, it just feels like a different life. I mean, when you're in it, when you're playing, you're so focused on trying to be the best you can be, or I was anyway. Most guys are, that you don't really look up. It's like you're like, I compare it to like you're swimming underwater. You just have your head down and you're going, trying to get to that finish line, or trying to continue to improve. And once it's all over, you kind of look up and you're like, wow, I swam a long distance. And I was so blessed, facing Trout right there.
I thought Trout hit one out of here, AJ.
I thought so too. Luckily, those fences were back, right? Those fences were back, and you can see me laughing. I think after this one, that I was like, man, Trout almost got me, and just it was a blessing to be able to play at that level. And there's, when I was playing again, I didn't think about my achievements. And when you were just, Kyle, when you were just talking about, the amount of innings I pitched and all these different things, I'm like, wow, I had a good run at it. So to go from, with the attributes that I had, when you look at it, I even watched a video of myself playing in high school, and I'm like, that kid made it to the big leagues. Like, wow, that's pretty impressive for that kid. Because I look at high school kids now, and they're throwing 96, 97, like blowing the doors off people. And I was just a little Mexican kid from Lubbock, Texas. So to be able to maximize my abilities, to be able to be an all-star, and to, give it all I had for all those years was an amazing experience. And, when I look back on it, there's parts of that nostalgia. There's parts of that of me that it's like, oh man, it went by like that. But it also gave me a life that, I can do what I want now, so it's all a blessing.
Hey, I do want to ask you about your podcast, The Locker Room. I've been hearing you on Sirius XM, which is really cool, man. When Steven plays those videos, it's crazy to me, AJ, because I started in 2013. I remember you made your debut in 2012. Number one, that ballpark looks totally different. You could have told me that thing was anywhere else in the country, and I wouldn't have known. But when you reminisce on your time with the Marlins in particular, I know one of your very good friends is Giancarlo. You had some amazing years together, some really good players, went through trials and tribulations, obviously in 2016 with Jose passing. I know you just touched on it a little bit. What do you remember most about being a Miami Marlin, though, for those handful of years?
The city, man, the city and the fans. There are the fans, the ones that show up. And when they all show up, it's an amazing atmosphere. I think, when you look at those World Baseball Classics and how much how the vibe in that stadium is electric, and the fans that do show up, the season ticket holders, the people that go every day to every game, they're diehards, and every once in a while there's still some fans that message me from the Marlins.
Really?
Yeah, still. And like, hey, congratulations on your kid or whatever, and I message them back. But that, it was the ballpark was different. I remember my first year, the Clevelander was our bullpen was right next to the Clevelander. So being a rookie looking in the Clevelander during the game, I understand why they switched our bullpen to the other side and let the other team be distracted by the Clevelander, because that was pretty distracting. But that was a fun time. The city, man, I love the city. The mornings there, I don't know. There's just a certain feel that Miami has for me that it's always gonna have a special place. And I miss it a lot. So I go back there every so often now with kids. It's kind of hard to go back, travel as much, but man, the city, I loved it. It was my first big league experience. It was all I knew. And it was an amazing experience, man. And I know we went through a bunch of stuff, the Jose Fernandez, that stands out, obviously. Ichiro being a teammate, Barry Bonds being a coach, as well as Donnie Baseball, like having legends, around, Tony Perez, all these guys, it's just all these people that were around. I was blessed to be a part of such history in baseball, and Miami provided me with that.
God, there's so much to play off of there.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know where we want to go. I guess you mentioned Ichiro, and I think it's good timing to bring him up. And you were teammates with him. I heard you share a story about the trash can story with Ichiro. I'd love for you to share with our audience that specific story. I think it was in Colorado.
Yeah. So it was around the time he got his 3,000th hit, and I believe it was a show and go. But before that, I had come across on Instagram some videos of Ichiro. I think everyone's seen him. He's like at various places in the ballpark. There's like 6 bats set up, and he hits them consecutively with one throw, and he throws from the outfield and goes into a bucket or some stuff like that, and I was like, to me, I mean, it's obviously like edited, but like I went up to him and asked him, hey, Ichi, is this real? And he goes, of course. And he kind of just jogs off and runs or whatever. And I'm like, he's messing with me, because Ichiro, he likes to mess with people, like, because he's so serious looking that he knows that he can play off that, and he knows way more English than people know. And he messes with media members every once in a while, with teammates. And he's a subtle, funny guy if you don't actually like know him or around him all the time. So, I was like, he's joking with me. And then it was in Colorado, me and Jose and maybe Tom Kohler, or I forgot who it was, but we were trying to hit this trash can, just trying to hit it. And we kept, I don't know, I threw like 50 balls, and Ichiro was warming up with Alan and his translator. And once he was done warming up, he just kind of walks over and he has his ball and he throws it. And so, in those trash cans, it's like the regular circle, and then there's like the little, to put it in there, the top part, that's like a little hole.
Sure.
Makes it in it. And me and Jose were like, no. And he looks at me. I didn't think he remembered. I didn't even remember at the time either. He goes, no, you believe me? And then like runs off with his, like, his shades. And like we're just sitting there laughing. I'm like, wow, that's a GOAT. That's a legend. You know what I mean? So there was that, and there's one of my favorite compliments was after I got traded. I got traded to the Mets, and when the Marlins came up to play us in New York, Ichiro stopped me during batting practice or their batting practice. And he was like, hey, I didn't get to say bye. This is all in English too. He said, I didn't get to say bye. I wanted to wish you luck on your career. He's like, you were one of my favorite teammates because of the way you went about your business, the way your work ethic and your care for the game. I just want to let you know that. And I want you to, good luck on your career. And while he was telling me this, it was like there was this human side that came out of Ichiro that you didn't see very much. And, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And he gave me a hug and then morphed back into Ichiro Suzuki and then jogged away, And that was one of my most for Ichiro to tell me that I was one of his, favorite teammates because of my work ethic meant a lot to me. And honestly, I did a lot of watching. I was a guy that I wanted to be the best. So the way you do that is watch the best, watch how the legends work, watch how they conduct their business and how they handle success, failures, and all those things. So I watched him a lot, and I kind of crafted my routine subtly off of his. And I did different things, but I found out and figured out what can work best for me and how to best prepare for my game, or my outings. So it was an amazing experience getting to play with him and just seeing him go through his process. And I think later on when we played him, whenever we went to Miami, as I was a Met, he got a hit off me. Like he just roped one right over shortstop over Echeverria's head. And I was like, I gave up a hit to a great one. So
he did that to a few folks, AJ. There's nothing to be disappointed about.
Yeah.
Hey, now tell me this, dude. I couldn't believe this last night. One person decided not to vote for him unanimously into the Hall. That makes me almost a little sick to my stomach. I just don't understand in what world somebody could decide that's not a first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where maybe Ichiro didn't give him an interview, or I don't understand. Like when you look at his career, like what doesn't scream Hall of Fame to you? You know what I mean? There has to be a personal grudge or something. Like these things sometimes are so emotional. So I feel like when you look at the numbers, you look at just his dedication to the game. I think I saw somebody had asked him, or I was listening to Sirius XM radio, the MLB Network radio, and I think they were interviewing Mike Cameron, and he was talking about how he asked Ichiro, like, you don't have any kids? And Ichiro was like, I'm too dedicated to my game, to this game to have kids. It would be unfair to my kid because I would still want to have the same attention and focus towards the game. I mean, this guy dedicated his life to this game, and he still suits up.
He still does suit up.
He still suits up. He still does a lot of his routine. He still takes BP.
Every day.
And I think, Mike Cameron was even saying, he was like, because Mike Cameron's also with the Mariners in some sort of capacity working. And he was saying, he was like, if the guy could see, he would still be playing. I think that one of the biggest things is his eyes. It's hard to pick up the spin and all that stuff that you need to do as a major league hitter. But, for me, just hearing that type of stuff and knowing how he was dedicated kind of lets me know, even off the field stuff, that he was 100% a baseball guy. And not only that, but his numbers and his career, like that's a 100%, voted in guy for me.
I will share this one anecdote because you were chatting about Ichiro and his routine. And Stephen, I'm not even sure if you're aware of this. Full disclosure, I may have exchanged one or two pleasantries in my whole time with the Marlins because there's not too many guys I was like, they're like larger than life. It was that crazy to see him around, but it was amazing. Number one, to watch the media follow him. They were very respectful. They would keep like a certain amount of distance every day. Only one person was allowed to speak with him, and they would then share it with the reporters. But if he said that he would show up at 3:01 in 30 seconds, that guy would walk through the doors not a second after that. And somehow,
Yeah.
I don't know how he seemingly got out of there as soon as the last out was made, but I've never seen somebody shower and get out of a clubhouse quicker. It was wild.
Yeah, it was like I was watching these my Instagram feed, and they're talking about how Prince used to like show up and disappear, like Prince the singer, and that's kind of like Ichiro. Ichiro would like somehow be at his hotel before everyone was like showering. I'm like, how are you doing this, man? Like he's one of those he's just a legend. He's just a mythical creature almost. And the thing about the media, it was cool. Like when he was chasing his 3000th hit, there was a bunch of Japanese media, obviously, but they were never in the way. They were never in the way of anybody else. They were so respectful. And it was amazing to see. And then so Ichiro would come in his locker room, come to his locker, take off the shirt that he just pulled out of his special bags, and then open another bag, put on his other undershirt, like never been worn, and then fix his hat, turn around, and then go. And then one media member will walk up to him, and they would all just sitting there watching him the whole time, just watching his every move. And then once he gave him the nod, then someone would go up and talk to him. Like they were so respectful. It was amazing to see. And there was a bunch of them, obviously. I mean, it's a huge deal. So yeah, it was just the culture, the way they handled it, like the media handled that, and the way Ichiro handled that was, it was amazing. And I was just blessed to be a part of that, man.
Talk about meticulous. I mean, it leads to the discipline and the success. I wrote down a couple of numbers, some Ichiro numbers, and I just want you to answer what you feel is the most impressive. They're all impressive, but there's got to be a number one. So here are some of the things I wrote down. Ichiro set the single season record for most hits with 262 in a single season in 2004. He tallied 3,089 hits in the majors despite not making his debut until 27. We know that. He had a 9-year career in Japan. He's one of 7 players with 3,000 hits and 500 stolen bases. And this one for me personally is the most impressive. If Ichiro came out of retirement, he would have to go hitless for 444 consecutive at-bats for his batting average to drop to below 300.
I mean, it's insane. And not only with that, so even, I mean, he's great and he has all these, all this success, but even when he was struggling, you never seemed to know whenever he was playing good or bad. He was one of those even kill guys. Like it was amazing to watch somebody just basically take things as almost information, and it's like, oh, he beat me because of this. There was no like, I'm mad that he beat me. There was none of these different things. It was just like straight stoic and just like ready to go get him the next time, and that's something I feel like a lot of people can learn from it. I mean, it's great to show emotion and not to keep it bottled up, but not to allow that emotion to carry over to your at bat, whether that be a positive or a negative. A lot of that stuff can influence you. So he was one of the best at not allowing the negatives or the success influence him, so that he was able to go out and be Ichiro every at bat. Give a great at bat. So yeah, it's just amazing to be around somebody like that. I learned so much just by watching him.
Stephen, you brought up the word meticulous. This is the only other thing that just sparked my mind. I never know he did this until I saw it, and then I asked, and AJ, you probably saw him do this a lot. He would polish his own shoes every day, and then he would also pour over his jersey, and if there was a little thread sticking off his jersey, he had a little tiny pair of scissors where he would snip the thread off of his own jersey every day, because it was like, I guess to him, it was like perfection. That was a part. I don't know. I saw that. I asked about it, and I was like, dude, you're a big leaguer. Somebody else could wash those shoes for you. He did it himself. He clipped his own jersey. It was some of the most fascinating stuff I've ever seen.
Yeah, he also lint rollered the front of his locker.
That's right.
Yeah, he had this little lint roller that he would do at the front of his locker and like get on his hands and knees.
Yeah.
And like, and like a servant pose, basically. You know what I mean? You're like, Ichi, what are you doing? Like I'd never expect you to see it, but that was just the level of respect that he had for his process in this game. And it's just next level. I mean, that's one of the reasons why he's one of the best to ever play. And that's because he was played half his career in the States. I can't imagine if he played his full career, the amount of numbers he would have put up, So Yeah, he was just one of a kind for sure.
I'm sure he'd be the all-time hit king. AJ, I know you have a flight to catch. I have one more for you. And by the way, full disclosure, folks, AJ woke up at like 6 o'clock Mountain Time to join us on the Marlins Hot Stove Show. We're forever appreciative for that, AJ.
Seriously?
Seriously, thank you so much. My last question for you, and it's probably a little bit deeper, but some guys don't do it well. You have seemingly gracefully handled your transition from baseball into the next stage of your life extremely well. And you came to grips with like something that consumed me for so long. It's no longer my identity, but you've made this amazing life for yourself with a family and the podcasting and Sirius XM. How difficult was it for you, man? It's sometimes so difficult for players to let that part of their life go.
Man, it's extremely difficult. I mean, it hits in waves. I think I did a decent job while playing to try to separate myself from success and failure and baseball. I did a decent job, but I still could have done a better one. You know, whenever your career ends on an injury, like how mine did, it was abrupt and it was tough. But one of the things that helped me was, my wife was pregnant at the time. And then so I had something that I had to transition to that is arguably way more important than baseball. And it was the life of my child that was coming, so that helped me. And just understanding and being grateful for the amount of time that I did get to play, the gratitude that I had to learn to appreciate where I was. And when the times, even still, there's still some times where you get down. It's hard to take something out of your body and your mind that you've been doing since you were 5 years old. And when the hardest question was, what do you do after you outlive a dream? What do you do? Like my purpose was to get to the big leagues. That was my dream. I got to live in that moment for, from 2012 to 2022. That was like my dream. And I almost forgot to dream after it. What's the next dream? So once you get over that a little bit, once you get over the identity crisis, then you see that there's a whole nother, space sometimes. And I saw how being one thing for all of my life was very limiting. I had to think only in certain terms. So being able to expand my mind and expand in things that I like, things that I don't like, figure out just a different way of living is fun, but it also could be a daunting task because there's so much space, there's so much room to think about things, and it can be overwhelming. So I understand it's very hard for guys, and it was very hard for me. And again, still there's some waves where I think one of the biggest things I had to get over was I can't throw a baseball right now. Like if I try to throw a baseball, my arm will pop out of my socket and that's it. I had trouble popping it back in. So, I didn't do rehab. I didn't do all that stuff. So like, there's still some things, and I need to have surgery. But I couldn't have surgery because my wife was pregnant. I didn't want to be in a sling while we have a newborn. And so like this whole process, but yeah, man, showing gratitude, being appreciative of the life that I have, and understanding that I'm blessed, and understanding that, I worked very hard, and I'm in a great position, and I'm loved. So I had a little bit smoother transition than most or some, but that didn't mean it wasn't hard. And I think, the biggest thing, like I mentioned, is gratitude with it all. So,
well, AJ, I love the way that you look at life, and you're doing an outstanding job outside of baseball. You're obviously not just a baseball player anymore. You're doing your thing. You got a family. So me and Kyle really do appreciate you jumping on with us.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys having me on, talking baseball, reliving the Marlins times and all those things. It's fun. That's what I get to do now. I'm retired. It kind of it gives me my fix of baseball. So thank you guys for having me on.
AJ, real quick, plug your stuff for us. Let our fans know where they can find your stuff. I'll make sure we actually plug it and put a graphic up of all your podcast work and Sirius XM stuff as well, man.
Yeah. The YouTube page is The Locker Room with AJ. And same thing with Instagram. My Twitter is the AJ Ramos. You can also follow some stuff there. So throughout the season, I'll be interviewing guys kind of similar to what you guys are doing, and just talking about process, talking about what it's like to be a big leaguer. I'm also interviewing people who don't play in the big leagues, just people that just sports people, and just learning the process of how to be great and what it takes to be great and how to be a human through it all as well. So
Thank you, AJ.
yeah, thank you guys.
All right, that was spectacular from AJ Ramos joining us on the Marlins Hot Stove Show. And before we recap, because there's so many great talking points and nuggets from that interview, want to promote FanFest. It's coming up February 8th from 4 to 8. I'll be out doing the live show actually at the Biscayne Bay Brew Hall. I think it's 2-hour show. I want to say it's 5 to 7. We're going to have multiple guests on. Maybe Kyle will stop by, not sure, but you can get your tickets.
I'll be there.
Will you be there? Doing
Yeah,
what? Do we know what you're doing?
I think I have a couple of obligations, but I will be on with you as much as you're willing to have me, if it's sporadically for some segments or whatever. But I will be with you as much as you're willing to have me.
Well, we always would love to have you. But yes, of course, FanFest, 4 to 8, Lone Depot Park. It's free. You meet your favorite Marlins, and there's a lot of activities there as well. So make sure to check that out. Okay, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome. That was
It
awesome.
was.
And I couldn't believe you
Steven,
had
I have
that
a question.
contact.
I have a question. We were talking Ichiro. Can you give me 30 seconds to run upstairs and grab something?
Sure. You want
All
me
right.
to fill some time here?
I don't know if you need a kill time or what you want to do, but just give me a few seconds.
All right, go run. Yeah, so first of all, this is an interesting lead up to the AJ Ramos story. We wanted to have someone on here that had some sort of connection with Ichiro, and we had thrown around ideas if we wanted to get someone like Jeff Nelson, who of course is on our Marlins radio broadcast, also on TV as well. He played in Seattle with Ichiro, and somehow, some way, Kyle dug up the contact AJ Ramos, who respectively had an outstanding career, 6 seasons with the Marlins, of course, an all-star year like we had mentioned, but he had also played with Ichiro. So Kyle came up with the idea to possibly have him on, DM'd him, or I don't know how, was it his contact? Was it his DM? I forget what you had, Kyle, but you got him on the podcast.
That is
You
number
ran
from years
upstairs.
ago.
You ran upstairs to your room, you went in the closet or whatever, your sock drawer, and what'd you pull out?
Oh, certainly not a sock drawer. Years ago, the organization had, this must have been 2016, 2017. There were like hundreds of game-worn jerseys from guys over the years in stock. So they took every member of the organization, and there was a huge raffle. Say there was 250 people. They had 250 jerseys they were going to give away. And you were in a raffle, and I didn't really know. I just, whatever. My name got drawn number 1. Now, it's not like you got to pick, but number 1 was associated with someone, and this is the jersey I got.
I've never seen this.
This is game worn. It's authenticated.
Wow. Kyle just pulled out an Ichiro jersey, 51, signed. Turn it around. Let me see the front.
Dude, this is an absolute gem. This is the old orange. Steven, can you hear me? You can now.
Now I can.
When we were talking about how meticulous this guy took care of his stuff, there's not a thread on this jersey, man. It's perfect. It's
absurd. Wow.
It might be my greatest prized possession.
And where have you kept this?
Well, up at my estate here in Broward County. Now you have to go through my security team to get in. It's let me just put it this way. It's in a very safe place in my humble abode. Dude, how beautiful. Unbelievable is that? A throwback? Or you can't find
make it up. Yeah, you can't make it up. That would sell for a lot of money, Mr. Kyle Sielaff.
That's one way to put it. Yes, sir.
Anyway, awesome interview with AJ, man. I'm a huge fan of him. You know, look, what he's doing in his media career in itself is awesome. I think you're going to hear him very soon on broadcasts and either TV or radio. He does an outstanding job with the podcast that I'm going to plug in a second here. But man, what a cool life that this guy's living. Made it to the majors. Not only made it, but 9 seasons, an all-star. Loved it here in Miami. I related to so much of those. It's just the Miami mornings. It's just such a beautiful city to be at, telling stories. And man, did he play with some absolute legends like you. I mean, Ichiro, Barry Bonds, I know wasn't a player, but a coach. God rest his soul, Jose Fernandez. I mean, it really is remarkable what that guy's career turned it out to be, and now he's doing his thing in the media space.
Giancarlo will be a Hall of Famer. There's a
Giancarlo, that's a big one.
Depending on and they were best of friends. I think they even had an apartment together here for a long time. Depending on how it all plays out, Christian Yelich might be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. Sure. I don't know if he's necessarily a long shot, but he's one of the best catchers of this current era. Would be JT Realmuto. He'll have his name in there. It's amazing. The only comment I have, Steven, then I want to promote his stuff, dude, because what he's doing is amazing. And the way he's going, we'll be seeing him around doing some broadcast work for the Marlins at some point, dude. Like, that's amazing. Yeah. I thought it was rather profound, and I really don't like to get too deep on this stuff because I don't know where to take it. He was like, the question you have to ask yourself is, what do you do when you outlive a dream? And I know.
Whoa. That was deep.
What the heck?
That was deep.
I was like, I'll never relate to that. I'll never be in those shoes. I was never a professional athlete. But the way in which he said it really made you like, it helps you understand a little bit what these guys go through when their identity of that is taken away.
Right.
It's just crazy. I thought that was a very profound statement.
I totally agree. I had myself thinking about that too. When this is all said and done, because this was always, I think, both of our dreams to get to Major League Baseball and broadcast for a team. It's like, when this is over, and hopefully this goes for another 50 years, but when it's over, like, what's next? And I don't want to think that deep, but it's an interesting way to look at life, because I think a lot of times from the fans' perspective, it's, after a player retires, it's like, oh, wow. So he gets just to ride off in the sunset with his millions, and he's not happy. Like, what? He can't find, like, what? That's not enough, and you just forget the human side of these individuals, So I think it's very interesting. It's a great point. I did want to throw to his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And his official trailer really quickly, because it was outstandingly produced as well. So let's check out AJ Ramos's YouTube page and his official locker room trailer.
My name is AJ Ramos. You may know me as a baseball player. I made my debut with Miami Marlins in 2012. I became the first Marlin in club history to strike out the first 3 major league batters I faced. I led NL rookies in innings pitched. I broke club records, became an all-star, made a comeback, and then without my permission, my body said it was done. I was forced to retire, and with my entire life being centered around AJ the baseball player, I found myself lost and confused about who I really was outside of the sport. And now, I'm on a journey of enduring that molding process all over again. The process of finding out, who is AJ? And as I spend time with some of the most amazing people at their craft and begin to peel back the layers of their process, I ultimately want to understand who we all are when the lights turn off, when the cameras stop rolling, and when the clock strikes 0. My name is AJ Ramos, and this is The Locker Room.
Man, how about that? Very cool. At the AJ Ramos on Twitter if you want to, or X if you want to check it out and follow him. The Locker Room podcast, he has multiple people on, like you said, not just baseball players, just in general. I think that's really interesting. The point behind all of this is to understand what these people are outside of the field and what they truly are, because we've kind of discussed this at length. Like a closer, for example, they go to a different space. It doesn't mean that that's them all the time. So what are these people when the lights are off, kind of thing? So I think that's interesting, because athletes are just wired differently.
Yeah, killer. I looked at the YouTube page when we were running our interview with him. He's done some amazing interviews. It was really cool people. So good luck to AJ. Awesome to chat with him. I hope to, again, I know this is weird now, but like whenever I can join you, Steven, I think it's really cool to get some of these old Marlins on too. Like Tom Kohler is an agent now.
Sure.
Whatever. That's just a guy that comes to mind because we mentioned his name. You know what? I'll put the ask in for Ichiro. Maybe he can update us on life.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way, to Ichiro. And shame on whoever it was that didn't vote him.
Criminal.
I think that's kind of wild. But they did that with criminal. they've done that with other
Derek
sure ballot
Jeter.
Hall of Famers. Yeah, exactly.
Derek Jeter was shorted 1 vote.
You know, it is what it is. All right, so we're off and rolling here on this Hot Stove Show program. 2 shows left. We had AJ Ramos on. Love it or leave it, lingering. That is going to come here sooner than later. But we do want to share our next interview, Aaron Leanhardt, who is the field coordinator with the Marlins. Interesting conversation. Honestly, when preparing for this, there's just not a ton on him, and there's not really a ton on the position because the role is just so different from organization to organization. But nonetheless, I think it's an interview that we're all excited to share with the audience.
I agree with you. Before you toss to it, he's a bit of a mystery man. He's one of those guys that's always roving. You never really know what he's doing, but he's actually doing everything. He's got his hands in everything. Awesome interview. Looking forward to sharing it with everybody.
All right, let's swing to it now. All right, Kyle, before we introduce our next guest, let's very quickly inform the audience about single game tickets, marlins.com/tickets. Look, it's coming. It's coming quickly. We have spring training, obviously, February 22nd. But that first game against the Pittsburgh Pirates, Skeens versus Sandy, make sure to check out marlins.com/tickets for single game tickets. You see it on your screen right now. Flanagan's, the Barbie night. I mean, Marlins do a tremendous job of mixing up the nights every single week that you're at the ballpark. So I would highly advise everyone to check it out, marlins.com/tickets. Anything to add, Mr. Kyle Sielaff?
You mentioned Paul Skeens' name. I saw the article last night that an 11-year-old card trader in California pulled his 1 of 1.
Unbelievable.
And that was a huge story a couple of months ago because the Pirates are offering like 2 seats behind the plate for the next 30 years and all of this crazy because Skeens wants the card back. But that's all I had on the Paul Skeens front, Stephen.
Yeah, it's funny. You jumped the gun to get on Love It or Leave It because that was one of my Love It or Leave It topics. Again, jumping the gun. Last week you did Miami Live, but you know what? You're all over it. I cannot question your
I didn't know about that. You can't blame me. I didn't know about that. You said Skeens' name. I saw the story.
No, I can't. I can't. All right, so marlins.com/tickets. Okay. Our next guest makes his way south after spending last season as the New York Yankees major league analyst. Before that, he was the assistant minor league hitting coach or coordinator, rather, a hitting coach with the GCL Yankees East, hitting coach with the FCL Yankees. And he is now the field coordinator for your Miami Marlins. It's Aaron Leanhardt. He jumps in the ring and he's ready to rock here. Aaron, Stephen Strom here, Kyle Sielaff there. I saw before all of this that you were a physics professor at the University of Michigan for 7 years. What did syllabus week look like for Professor Lenny?
Oh, wow. That's something my students can probably answer better than I can. It definitely evolved over time. Every semester you're teaching a different class. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And every semester you probably adapt and adjust to what went right and what could have gone better in the previous semesters. So I had an opportunity to teach the new incoming freshmen, some of whom wanted to be physics majors, some who didn't, and had the opportunity to teach the graduate students who are out there in the world doing really cool stuff, shooting rockets to Mars and that kind of thing. So just kind of cover the whole spectrum. So it's really an awesome opportunity.
Where the heck do we start with this guy, Kyle? I mean, 7 years as a professor, then he moves in and says, I'm going to do baseball, and I'm going to work for one of the best franchises ever in the Yankees. I mean, where do we even start with this guy?
Well, Aaron, I'll first start by saying welcome. I'm very intrigued to watch you work because, Stephen mentioned you have a doctorate from MIT. You spent 7 years as a physics professor at the University of Michigan. I have a question on that shortly, but Stephen and I have routinely asked every new member of this coaching staff, can you kind of rewind to your childhood? Let's put the VHS tape back in, right? Let's rewind. Can you explain to me and to both of us how you have gotten to where you are now, where your love of baseball came from, and I guess your trajectory and journey to this point?
I'll start with, I think my childhood was recorded on Super 8, not VHS. So.
Oh, okay. All right. I jumped the gun. I apologize, Aaron.
Anyways, I grew up a huge sports fan, huge baseball fan, to be honest, in the Metro Detroit area. So huge Tigers fan back in the 80s when they won the World Series, which was an amazing experience as a kid for sure. Still root for all the other Detroit sports teams, the Lions, the Pistons, the Red Wings, that kind of stuff. Played baseball through high school. Was good enough to make a varsity baseball team in a school with over 2,000 kids. So was decent. But I went to the University of Michigan as an undergraduate and was definitely not good enough to play baseball there. I walked on and I walked right off about as quickly as they could. So, and I'm certainly not telling them that they made the wrong decision. They made the right decision, and I probably made the right decision as well. I went into to the sciences. I studied electrical engineering as an undergraduate. I worked in a research lab, a physics research lab, when I was an undergraduate there, which is how I made the decision to transition into physics full time and go to graduate school and get a PhD in physics. And then after that, maybe one of the more common career trajectories is to work in more research labs and aspire to be a professor, which is what I ended up doing for about 7 years. I taught classes and ran a research lab at the University of Michigan. And it was a really great experience. And at some point I had the opportunity to try to transition into something else. So that something else eventually became baseball. It was at a time where I think analytics had been in the game of baseball for quite a while at that point. It was always used for what you might consider more player evaluations and player valuations on the front office side, maybe a little bit of in-game strategy. But definitely not used as heavily on the player development side. So to a certain extent, kind of that era when I entered the game was when the data, the analytics were being used a little bit more by the coaches on the ground to basically help players get better and advance their careers. So that was the approach I took to it. That was kind of the teacher inside of me wanting to still teach, if you will, but try to teach at a different level, a different topic, if you will. So got to start coaching in some fairly small places. The Atlantic Collegiate Baseball League in New Jersey, a small junior college in Eastern Montana, Dawson Community College, and eventually got a job at the lower minor league levels with the Yankees and worked my way to here, this position.
So, wow, that's a lot to kind of chew off. Let me first start with you getting into baseball. Was that something where you went to them? Did they come to you? Because analytics were, known, but I don't know if they were as common. How did the process of you actually getting a job with a team in baseball begin?
I definitely did a lot of the looking originally. I think if you look back on the resume I submitted at the time, it was probably a pretty easy reject kind of cast aside, to be honest. And so I'll give a lot of credit to the first couple people that had the courage to hire me and give me a job. And I'll give a lot of credit to the players, that the first groups of players that worked with me. For sticking with me and kind of giving me the trust to help them get better in a way that was probably different than they'd experienced in the past. So definitely a lot of looking around on my behalf to get started. And then at some point you kind of gain a little bit of traction and a little bit of, name recognition in the industry, and it kind of snowballs from there.
Aaron, what was your life goals if you never did segue over to the baseball side? What were you kind of planning on doing, you think?
Yeah. As a teacher, I think students are always setting 5-year plans, 10-year plans, that kind of thing. And the one answer to your question would be there's no way that my 5-year plan or 10-year plan was this when I was teaching physics at the University of Michigan. So the short answer is I took a faculty job because I really enjoyed teaching. I really enjoyed research. I really enjoyed working in that environment as a student coming up through the system, if you want to think of it that way. And honestly, I think at that time, the long-term vision would have been to ride that out, through tenure into retirement, like I think a lot of people do. And then for whatever reason, I decided to become captivated by what you might call teaching and player development in just a different realm, right? So it's a lot of similar concepts. What are the best practices for educating students in a classroom? what are the best practices for acquiring skill on a baseball field. There's a lot of actually, really interesting nuances that go on behind the scenes to actually do those jobs better, if you will, more efficiently than they're typically done. So that was always what kind of captured my interest as an educator, whether as a formal classroom professor or a baseball coach.
And you obviously worked a lot on the analytics side of things. I thought it was interesting your time with the Yankees, and we'll bounce around here a little bit. We'll obviously ask you what your job and responsibilities are now with the Marlins. The era of analytics here has obviously come a long way. At first, it was seen as taboo, like what is all this stuff? How could it possibly make us better? We've transitioned now to where players are being very receptive of this. If I understand it correctly, your job in recent years was the Yankees, was you were kind of the conduit between the players and the front office, kind of that buffer to help everybody involved. But how have you been able to, I guess, get the trust of the players and coaches to get us to a point where they're very receptive to using this information to try to better their careers and livelihoods?
I think it always starts kind of small and it builds up. If you demonstrate the ability to help a player get better, their trust is gonna grow in you. And I think having that data, the technology available is just one of many tools to help coaches help the players get better, and the players see that as time goes on, right? You start working with them in the cage, and they think they hit a fly ball or something like that, and you show them that the actual reading on the technology says it was more like a one hopper to the shortstop. And that's just honest, subjective feedback, and then they can make the adjustment that they want to make because they want to hit that line drive over the shortstop's head. They want to hit that double. So again, it's I think it's really just the fact that as time goes on, as you start incorporating these things into the practices and into the training environment and giving the players feedback based on this information, the players then use it to help themselves get better, and they really start to embrace it.
So following that, Aaron, I actually read an article from the New York Post. It was really cool. Aaron Judge was complimenting you when he wanted to go in late for a workout in the cages. He thought he was the only one there. And he referenced you as obviously Lenny. And he said, here was Lenny, sitting there and getting his work in. What was your relationship with, I guess, not only Aaron Judge, because he's obviously such a big name, but, your relationship with the players? And I know Kyle had just asked sort of about it, but just really your roles and responsibilities in a guy, someone like Aaron Judge.
Yeah, I mean, it was, over my time with the Yankees, there's lots of players that came through the player development complex in Tampa. Some of the minor league guys, some of the major league guys would work out there, and it was, really just always be available to help them out, whatever needed to get done. And then over time, you kind of build that relationship with the guys where, at some point they start coming to you with questions, as opposed to maybe initially you're kind of tasked with going to them with unsolicited information, which can be a bit of a challenge, right? But again, like I said, as time goes on, you provide them with information that helps them get better, that's in response to something that they're asking about in the game. Like, hey man, these guys seem to be beating me with change-ups, right change-ups, or these guys are beating me with four seams on the top of the zone. They know what they're struggling with, and they'll kind of openly talk about it. And if you can find ways to dig up information that's going to help them make adjustments to improve on the field, then they're going to be very receptive to it. So, the reality is just throughout the season this last year and in previous seasons, that was kind of always my role with a lot of the coaches, a lot of the players, was to be a good listener to what they were doing well in at the game, but also maybe struggling in a little bit, and just trying to find ways to help them get better on the side.
So you go from major league analyst to now major league field coordinator. Similarities, differences? Is this just a completely different position? Because I obviously don't know.
Sure. I mean, definitely different job title, officially a very different role. I think the similarities are probably we are across this organization and probably all of baseball, trying to better integrate things like data and analytics into the player development system, into the process of helping the players get better. We're also trying to integrate things that I referred to earlier about, skill acquisition. How do you actually train these skills in a more optimal, more efficient way into the player development system? So to some extent, that is my role here, is to really help all of the hitting coach has a very specific role, right? He helps hitters hit, if you will. The pitching coach, same thing. He helps the pitchers pitch. The infield coach, the outfield coach, the base running coach. My role is to really help them have access to all that information and have access to all the best practices and skill acquisition. And in a broader sense, it's try to help us make sure that the whole is actually greater than the sum of our parts. So really to try to integrate all the development that's going on, maybe in isolation in these different departments, but try to find ways to sync it up in a way where we can actually develop the guys faster, better, more efficiently if we kind of work a little more collaboratively on these things.
So, Aaron, what have you been doing since you've been hired? Because you mentioned specifically a hitting coach could spend a lot of time on the phone with some of his hitters. He'll be working with pitching coach, similarly with the pitchers. Your job is a little bit all encompassing. It's helping a variety of different areas. It's trying to get multiple areas to be the sum to be better than the parts. What have you been doing in anticipation of spring training and the regular season?
Yeah, so definitely reaching out to each one of those individual departments and trying to understand their mission, their objectives, their goals. As a hitting coach, I might know that area fairly well, but it's still not my job here to coach the hitters, right? I still need to reach out to our director of hitting and make sure I understand his goals, his objectives, his philosophy for that area, right? And then, of course, across the other departments where I probably have a lot less experience, definitely just get to know how our pitching department wants to operate, how our base running department, our infield department, our outfield department, and then beyond even those on-field departments, how does the mental performance department want to integrate itself into all of this? How does the analytics department, the sports science department, the nutrition department, the strength and conditioning department, the athletic trainers, et cetera, right? Wow. Each of those departments has something very valuable to contribute. And my goal is to make sure that they're all able to contribute maximally during spring training and throughout the season.
What about the broadcast department, Aaron? What do you think we have to contribute to this side of it? Huh? Do you have any thoughts on that? We've been asking people and nobody gives me an answer yet.
Honestly, I probably do have some great suggestions for you. It would honestly be to get to know our directors and honestly speak the language that they speak, because when you ask them questions, they're going to be much more responsive if you're speaking their language. If you ask them a question based on maybe your past experiences, they're going to have a little more awkward time giving you an answer. So I would definitely get to know those directors. And when I say speak their language, get to know what their mission is, their objectives are, and honestly, you'll get a lot better answers for your questions if you really dive in with those people.
You got any good? What are some of your favorite Michigan broadcast? George Blaha, he's one of my favorites.
Oh man, again, this is the Super 8 era. Remember, I grew up with Ernie Harwell, and I grew up with George Kell and Al Kaline calling the games on TV. To be honest, you probably had to pay a little extra to watch the games on TV back then. So I ended up watching a lot of Cubs games and a lot of Atlanta games growing up just because of WGN and TBS. So still a huge Tigers fan, but I watched a lot of the other baseball as well. And then Ernie.
Aaron, you're a Michigan man born and raised. Do you subscribe to that there's an asterisk next to Ohio State's national championship because they just can't seem to beat you guys?
I'll just simply say, as a Michigan fan, I forgot to watch the game this week. I'm not even sure what happened.
Well, a lot of Michigan fans watched the game and they said, look, you can't beat us. Congrats on your national championship, but that national champion trophy doesn't mean nothing.
I'm really happy for the guys this year that finished the season strong there. Really impressive way to close out, winning at Ohio State and then beating Alabama to close out the season again this year. So really happy for them. Really excited for what it brings, to the table going into next year.
And I will defend you on this, Aaron. If I was a Lions fan and I had to endure what I watched on Saturday, I probably wouldn't watch football for the rest of the year.
I also have to say that, during my lifetime, it has been maybe a little tough, but honestly, the current Lions team is just absolutely amazing. Really, really happy to see how they turn things around. This last game was unfortunate for sure. But in this industry, I've been through those unfortunate situations as well. If you want to look back and say the World Series. So, It's just something that you accept, you learn from, and you come back better next year because of. And I'm confident the Lions are going to do that.
Okay, so we talked about the Yankees, one of the best franchises, not even just in baseball, in all of sports. What was Peter Bendix's message to you, and what was the main thing that you took away that I'm leaving New York, I'm coming to Miami?
Yeah, really impressive group of people that he's put together here. There were a lot of these people already on board when I chose to sign on, so I certainly can't claim to be, patient zero, if you will, the first guy to sign on after Peter got hired. So first of all, he really had already assembled a great team, and that was a huge draw to try to come and work with a lot of these people that have had a lot of success in other places, who are also very visionary and forward thinking when it comes to how they want to operate, here and moving forward. With respect to Peter himself, he's certainly one of them. And he definitely had a vision where player development is going to be a huge priority. And I think internally as a teacher, as a coach, that's really appealing to know that you're going to have the opportunity to have that big of an impact in an org that's going to skew on the younger side and definitely be a little more malleable and have a little more upside, a little more opportunity to really push things on the player development side.
Aaron, I think what's really cool about your job is you're dipping your toes into the water of a multitude of different areas within the organization, obviously down in the clubhouse area, hitting, pitching, field, whatever it might be, as you had mentioned. Maybe you can or you cannot answer this. And Steve and I have talked about the youth on this team, and not just the team, but the coaching staff is very young. There's going to be new ideas. A lot of things are going to be fresh. Do you think, even out of the gates to start in spring training, it'll be cutting edge and innovative? Are you guys trying to, catch up? Where are we at as we develop these processes and what you guys are looking to implement come spring training?
I think the collection of people we've hired are already at the forefront of a lot of these player development concepts. So a lot of the things that I talked about happening kind of behind the scenes, whether it was when I was teaching at the University of Michigan or whether it's in player development, these kind of best practices in education and skill acquisition. So I think the reality is a lot of that stuff goes unnoticed, but I think we're already going to be pushing the envelope in those regards, from day one. I think a lot of the way the leadership group here talks about it is, we're not going to be reckless, but we're definitely going to be fearless in how we approach this, right? So the goal is to really be out on that leading edge, that bleeding edge, in a way that's designed to help the players get better faster, and it's always with that goal in mind is to really make sure that's the focus of what you're doing, and if that's the focus, then you're going about it the right way.
So because your job is a bit all-encompassing, if I know this is a newer job, a different job for you. If you take a day in the regular season for me, what does it look like for you? Will you be in the hitters meetings and then in the pitchers meetings and then in the weight room talking about stuff? What does that kind of look like for you?
I think it's definitely, I think the one thing we're trying to view here is in biology, they say structure dictates function. So we're trying to use the structure of the day, the schedule, if you will, to really dictate how well the day is going to function. And so to your point, a little bit of all of that, right? The goal is maybe I won't physically be present in all of those things, but it's to make sure that those things are scheduled in a way that optimizes the output you're trying to affect. So if you're trying to help the hitters do a better job game planning, how can we schedule that around their hitting time or integrate it within with some of the new technology that's available, like Traject, to really help the hitters internalize that information and take it onto the field better and act on it better. At this point, there's a lot of orgs are going to have the same data, but the one thing I learned when I was teaching is I gave the same class to 200 kids. So I said the same thing to all 200 people, but they gave me 200 different answers back when I gave them a test. So our goal is to find ways to disseminate this information in a way where all of our players take that onto the field and in as actionable form as possible. So and just take that analogy and use it across all departments, whether it's infield, outfield, et cetera. The strength coaches, the athletic trainers, all of that.
I have one more follow-up to that, Stephen, if I may. We talk about leading up to first pitch. Do you have a specific role and responsibility on the bench during games?
To make sure everyone has a specific role. So
wow, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's something that I'm still in the process of trying to put together here for the season, to be honest. So at this time, I'll simply say it's not currently defined, but the goal is to make sure everyone has a well-defined role at that point during the game. So and that is in part my responsibility to get that defined here. So I'm a couple months away from having that done.
We got a couple of ex-New York Yankees here in this organization. Did you work with any of them? Rachel, Joe, anyone that you were familiar with?
Yeah, both of those for sure. They were both in the hitting department when I was there in the hitting department. So, really good experience with them. As I mentioned before, Peter had already assembled a really good team by the time I signed on. I was definitely not, patient zero, so to speak. So both Rachel and Joe were in place when I signed on. Daniel Moskis was also a minor league pitching coach for the Yankees. So I did overlap with him a little bit as well. Although honestly, as a hitting coach, as a pitching coach, you probably just kind of like almost two ships passing in the night more than really interacted. But no, a lot of those guys were there as well.
I really got one more, Kyle, and I just want to know what excites you, what fires you up the most, either about this group or this organization, this coaching staff, whatever direction you want to take. Just what makes you pumped up going into 2025?
I think I kind of mentioned it a second ago. We're not going to be reckless, but we're going to be fearless. I think to some extent. If you look back kind of on my experience in the game, there was a time when I transitioned from physics to baseball where people probably thought I was crazy. And I probably give them the answer, well, there's a fine line between courageous and crazy, and I try to walk it every day. So to some extent, that mentality overlaps, I think, very well with our mindset here of being fearless, not reckless, but fearless, right? It's kind of that conundrum that we're going to push the envelope on every day when it comes to really all facets of the game, particularly player development, which is the facet that I'm part of.
Aaron, I mean this seriously. Obviously, with a doctorate from MIT and your background in physics, there's all this crazy stuff now and the TrackMan data and all this. Do you spend your free time trying to develop the next new TrackMan that only the Marlins will have access to? And like from the physics side of things, like trying to invent something that nobody else has that might make the Marlins better? Or like, is there not enough time to do that?
People ask me that all the time, and I'll say I'm very open and receptive to questions, both from coaches and from players. And I think over the years, we've probably found ways to deliver items to coaches and players that have had a big impact on the game. And some of those have still managed to fly under the radar, which is fine. Some of them
Really?
you'll probably find out about as time goes on. But there's absolutely ways to try to find some modifications to current, whatever it is, technologies, equipment, et cetera, in ways that'll push the envelope for the players. And they really gravitate towards that.
That's really interesting. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm following you there. That's interesting. What do you got, Steven?
What else you got for me?
What do I have for you? Oh, sorry.
No, I ask you that. I'm just genuinely curious. Somebody with your background and your profound knowledge that you have, what keeps you busy outside of baseball? What are some of your passions?
The reality is I'm like an outdoors guy. I like to just get out there, get after it, just get away from everything. Whether it's 2-3 hour hike, bike ride, you name it, just try to get out and get after it. So that would be my go-to, if it's accessible, would be something like that.
Do you have a favorite hike domestically? And then we can go abroad if you like.
Well, I will say Florida's been a little more challenging than some of the other places I've lived. I've lived all over the country and probably had a little bit more accessibility to that kind of thing. So I will say locally, I've become a bit more of an urban hiker.
Okay. I do have one suggestion. Have you ever been out to what they call down here, like it's called like Shark Alley or Shark Valley out in the Everglades? I heard it's very cool. No?
I have not.
Yeah, I heard it's very cool.
I'll have to check it out.
All right. Yeah.
How's your Spanish?
Más o menos. Antes me trabajó con los Yankees no hablé español, pero en 2019 trabajé en la República Dominicana y los jugadores me enseñaron mi español. So el Agustín Ramirez y el Gerard Serna y los otros jugadores me enseñaron. So,
Kyle, he said he worked in the Dominican League.
Steven, I'm going to cut you off, and I'm going to let you know that I followed most of that, actually, working
right.
with some of those guys and being down in the Dominican and learning it, a lot. I actually followed all that.
So his Spanish is pretty good, huh?
Much better than mine, but I followed it.
It's definitely something I need to work on every day to get better at.
You will, just inherently being down here. It's like the first language here in Miami. It's really useful to obviously know. And we're in an organization where there's a ton of players that speak Spanish, so it's always good to at least familiarize yourself with that.
For sure.
What's your relationship like with Clayton McCullough, Aaron?
Other than the fact that he kicked my butt in the World Series, it's really good.
Yeah. I was going to ask about that. I'm glad you brought it up.
No, I mean,
let a horse in the water.
Amazing guy. He was obviously hired. He was one of the people that was already on board when I took the job. Just great leader, great guy to have in the dugout, in the clubhouse, someone that I think we can all aspire to learn from and in some sense, want to be more like him for sure.
I do have one more. What are your aspirations now in baseball? Because I asked you, what were you going to do being a physics professor? What do you want? Do you want to manage one day? What does Aaron Leanhardt want to do one day in baseball now? Are you just where your feet are today?
I probably skew a little bit more in that direction, just kind of where my feet are today. Do my current job as best I can, learn from the people around me doing their jobs, and we'll see what comes of it next year and the years that follow.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you were going to say one day you'd like to be the commissioner of baseball or something, big goals. Yeah.
I don't think I've ruled anything out, but I'm definitely
all
not.
Right. There we go. That's our teaser, Stephen. Aaron Leanhardt will pursue the commissioner seat after his time with the Marlins. There you go.
I think that's what media. No matter how politely I phrase things, it gets spun that way.
Yeah, See, that's the media.
Tell the commissioner I'm gunning for him.
Oh, goodness. Aaron, thank you so much for carving out time and doing this with us. We really do appreciate all of the insight. We're so excited for you and the entire organization, and we'll see you up in spring training very, very shortly here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Kyle. Congrats on the TV gig, Kyle.
Thank you so much, Aaron.
For sure.
All righty. There you have it. Aaron Leanhardt, as we transition into Monster Jam, and we'll do some takeaways and some nuggets from that interview. But I know we talked about it before, Kyle. We're ramping up on it. Monster Jam this weekend, day after my birthday, 25th, 26th. Gravedigger, awesome event. Get your tickets, marlins.com, Monster Jam. And yeah, man, I'm excited for the entire coaching staff and everything that comes with it. But I think all in all, we just continue to realize that all these guys are very similar in the sense that they're here for trying to push the envelope. I thought it was interesting talking about being fearless, not reckless. There's a huge difference between the two. And all in all, we'll see what Aaron Leanhardt, his influence and impact on the organization. But just any takeaways for you, Kyle?
A lot of good sound bites for us. I know that. To tease the show, there was a lot of good sound bites. Nope. I just think he's another very innovative mind, Stephen. We have talked about that a lot. A bit on the younger side, a little bit. He might actually be a little bit older than Clayton, but still in large part the staff very, very young, taking on responsibilities they've never had before, being innovative, pushing the button where it's necessary to try to get these guys better. I think it's all great, man. So pumped to have Aaron on board. Looking forward to meeting him and everybody else we've talked to this winter. I mean, it's been a blast to get to know these guys.
Did you like that I told him the importance of speaking Spanish in Miami?
Yeah. He kind of looked at you like, no duh. Thanks. Hey, dude, thanks for the tip. After he just rattled off sentences fluently in Spanish, you decided to let him know that speaking Spanish in Miami is very important.
I said, you know what? I thought it was an interesting, thing to say. I felt like it was needed. It's very, because, I know there's a lot of Latin players, so you're always speaking the language, but here it's just different. It's just everywhere you go, you're going to be hearing Spanish, speaking in Spanish. So, just maybe just a little tip.
I think he can do it better than the both of us by the sounds of things.
No, he can't. He can't, but that's okay.
You do not speak Spanish better than Aaron Leanhardt.
Okay. I guess
I would like you right now on the air, if you could provide me with 2 to 3 sentences in perfect Spanish like that, this will be our trial run.
Okay. Yo voy ir al gimnasio después ese radio program. Okay. So I just said I'm going to go to the gym after this
but not like
radio show.
It's fine.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, I tip my cap to you. You've taken it upon yourself to go through Spanish lessons since you've been here. I just think Aaron has a little bit more experience with Spanish, but you let him know he better continue to grab Rosetta Stone, brother, because he's in for one, is what you told him.
Yeah, let's get to love it or leave it. I don't need to prove to anyone about my Spanish. I'm ready to go. Okay, love it or leave it. Let's see if this thing works. Had some troubles the last couple of weeks with it, but we'll give it another crack. Okay, Kyle. Well, you already spoiled it again, one of them at least. Topps announced Tuesday that an 11-year-old collector from Los Angeles has pulled its highly sought-after Paul Skeens rookie card. Love it or leave it.
Awesome. It's a young kid that got it. Now, I don't know what he's going to do with it if he's not going to be able to make it to all the Pirates games. Maybe he just sells it. I'm sure he'll have that option, obviously. Maybe Paul buys it off him for $500,000 or something. I really don't know, but unless he's going to be moving to Pittsburgh, I don't, maybe they can work something else out too. Like for the next 30 years, every time the Pirates come to Dodger Stadium or wherever the kid lived, he can go to, I don't know. But pretty cool. I couldn't imagine pulling that. That'd be pretty amazing.
I don't know why my mind went to this point, but let's just say the kid gets money, right? Let's say he gets a couple of gift cards. Were you that kid when you got gift cards after Christmas or your birthday that you spent it like within the first day? Or no, were you a guy that like invested into your bank account or something?
No, I probably just put the gift card away, and if at some point within the year I could use it, I would use it, but I would not be in a rush to use it.
Okay. Love it. I do love this because it's just this is the cool part about collecting cards, and you never know at what age and who's going to collect one card that is exclusive and that's going to, give back X amount of money. I mean, I don't even know how much this is going to go for. If anything, you got to wait. You got to wait this thing out because Skeens is on his way to a Hall of Fame career after one season. I mean, the way that the kid's going to pitch. So we'll see what happens. But I would highly advise, just like our boy Leanhardt, to speak some Spanish around here, I would highly advise this young man to hold on to that card. My thoughts.
So you would hold on to it? Yeah.
My thoughts.
Fair thoughts. You're entitled to your thoughts. That's all. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Absolutely. I don't know if you live in LA. I just don't know how you, unless the Pirates move on their offer a little bit and say, I don't even know. But obviously the offer was tailored for a Pirates fan that might have the opportunity to go to 50 home games a year for the next 30 years with bats and balls and jerseys or whatever. But yeah, he could hold on to it, make a lot of money someday.
Okay. The next love it or leave it topic, Kyle. There is no love it or leave it. I just really wanted to talk about this. So I'm just going to say love it or love it because you're not going to leave it. Bob Uecker, who called his hometown Milwaukee Brewers for 54 consecutive years, passed away on Thursday. He was 90 years old. The run marked the second longest streak of calling a single team's game in the sports history, trailing only Kansas City Royals broadcaster Denny Matthews. Again, there's no love it or leave it here.
Well, the irony here is that Bob would say leave it. He doesn't want anybody to talk about him. That was always his thing. Brian Anderson was telling a great story, or Jeff Levering or somebody was telling the great story that Bob would always joke he hopes he dies in the booth so somebody has to roll him out of there in front of the pomp and circumstance. Like, that's hilarious. So, in fact, we love it. He would say to leave it. Amazing career. a guy that not many, I think a lot of people are probably scared of death. Like, that's a guy that embraced it, was always joking about it and like making little quips and jokes. And he was so just, there will never be another Bob Uecker, the life he lived.
Did you get a chance to meet him or no?
I couldn't pretend to tell you a great story years ago. And he didn't walk in the booth last year. He was working when we were there in like 2018 and 2019. He would come by the booth to exchange pleasantries to Dave Van Horn, Hall of Fame radio voice of the Marlins previously. And I would just be a fly on the wall. I didn't really say hello. I mean, I remember shaking his hand, introducing myself, but it's not like I went over to the booth, couldn't pretend to tell you I had a great relationship with him. But amazing life. He never thought of himself as a broadcaster up until this year, and I'm sure they'll do something with it. He had a locker in the clubhouse. That was Bob Uecker. Players loved him.
Crazy.
You know,
Yeah.
He didn't really see himself as like a player or whatever. So I think that stuff is amazing. I think it's really cool. Rest in peace, Bob. But have a Miller Lite or two. Have a great tasting, less filling up there in Milwaukee.
Yeah. Gold standard. I think I would go to the extent of saying sort of like a superhero kind of persona where I think in the broadcast realm, and I honestly think because he ventured out and was able to do movies, Harry Doyle, and
Late Night with Johnny Carson became one of his favorite guests. That's insane. You'll never see that again to me with a broadcaster. No. We're in a day and age in broadcasting where you don't get as much intermingling kind of between the players and the broadcasters within reason, and like they become these larger than life figures. So, which is totally cool. It's fine, but it's just amazing. He was one of a kind, one in a million.
Yeah, and I think that you mentioned when you start to name like guys like Vin Scully, I think Bob Uecker is right on that list. And he was a soundtrack to a lot of people, including my dad, who grew up in the Midwest. So that was a big, big, big part of his life, listen to Uecker.
Yep.
And he had some great sayings. And I think one of them was was it when he said the score, your Milwaukee Brew, or is that someone else that said that?
No, that's
who is that? I'm calling. That's a terrible job on the broadcast.
Ted Leitner. Yeah, that wasn't good. That would be Ted Leitner, former radio voice, Hall of Fame voice of the San Diego Padres, would say when the Padres were winning, your Padres, or no, my Padres 3, the Braves 2. When they were losing, he'd say your Padres 2, the Braves. Yeah, it was either when they were winning, my Padres. When they were losing, it was your Padres.
Sure. I'm going to look these up because then I don't want to botch another one. So here was some of Bob Uecker's best lines. The way to catch a knuckleball is to wait until it stops rolling and then pick it up. Just like that subtle humor of like, for me at least, when I hear those jokes, I laugh like 5-6 seconds after the first person because I'm a little bit slower when it comes to this stuff. But so witty. Let's see this one. I remember one time I'm batting against the Dodgers in Milwaukee. They led 2-1. It's the bottom of the ninth. Bases loaded, 2 outs, and the pitcher has a full count on me. I look over to the Dodger dugout, and they're all in street clothes. It's just like dun, dun, dun. You're always kind of waited for the end of the joke.
Can you do his home run call? Iconic.
No.
Go ahead. Get up. Get out of here. Gone. That was his iconic home run call.
So
amazing.
All in all, for us, for broadcasters, like this is a huge loss. And I can't say enough great things about what he meant to baseball, and just super cool to see the impact and influence on a radio broadcaster. And he he did some TV stuff too, but
of course,
the impact is just profound, man. It's really, really cool to see the response that he got and so many great stories.
No doubt. One of one, man. One of one. Rest in peace, Bob Uecker.
Oh, yes. Rest in peace to Bob Uecker. That's it. That's all I got for you.
Only one love it or leave it. One love it or leave it. Okay.
I guess.
All right.
I guess.
Hey, I roll with it, man.
Fun. We covered the Ichiro stuff. I was going to say the Ichiro, and then I was going to say love it or leave it, the anonymous voter. Of course, you're going to hate that. Of course, you're going to leave that. That's kind of it. I mean, as far as baseball is concerned, I think we're covering all of our tracks. I
Love
think
it or
the
leave it.
Dodgers
Hand us
are the
back to the
Dodgers.
Dodgers.
Are
Could've
the
done that
Dodgers
one.
ticking everyone off? Is that what it is? Are they like the new Miami Heat or like the new super team? They're just going to sign everyone?
Well, there you go. That's a great love it or leave it. Do you love it or leave it? Do you like what the Dodgers are doing?
Well, what are you supposed to say? No, you're going to leave it? I mean, of course you're going to love what they're doing.
As a fan of the game, Steven, I'm asking you, do you love it or leave it that many perceive the Dodgers to be creating a super team that nobody can compete against? That's the big...
Well, from a fan's perspective, you leave it, of course. But what fan that's not a Dodger fan would love it?
I think fans of baseball in general, to me, it's a great love it or leave it. I love it because as a fan of the game, it continues to get rid of the notion that baseball is dying and it's something bad, like the sport is just like dying, right? I just think it's amazing for the game that they're doing this. And I mean, it puts other teams in a tough spot, but it's great for the sport when billions of dollars are being spent in the offseason. It just totally dispels the notion that baseball's dying. It's not. That's amazing what they're doing. Yeah, they're going to be really hard to beat, but you tip your cap to them, and the Marlins are doing things one way, the Dodgers are choosing to do it another way. I just really like to see, as a fan of the game, all the money being spent in the sport, because again, it's just it really is getting rid of it's not dying. There's more money than ever. There's more TV ability to watch and listen. I think the sport is in an amazing place, and kudos to them, man. I
agree with that.
And they're doing it, and people are upset that they're deferring all this money and stuff. Well, they're not cheating. They're not breaking any rules. They're just doing it their way. So I just thought I saw the Tanner Scott thing. Good for him.
Yeah.
What else? I saw Gene Segura, your good friend of the Strom household, had a huge hit in the Dominican Republic last night. And he went nuts, jumping up and down. A good friend of Stephen Strom, Tim Anderson, signed a minor league deal with a spring training invite, the Los Angeles Angels. So some former Marlins.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And how about your old friend, Garrett Cooper?
I saw that.
You saw that?
Braves, minor league deal. Braves, minor league deal. I don't know why I was calling them your friend. I just know you love Gene.
I love Gene Segura. Gene Segura was special.
Scott goes there. A couple of guys, minor league invites.
You know what? I do want to address this too. We kind of did in the beginning of the show. We're actively, of course, looking for the next radio voice of the team, and that process is ongoing. And our plan is to fully have someone ready to go for spring and really take off and not miss a beat. So I guess I want to address that, because maybe people are wondering. Of course, we have some candidates in mind, but we are in the process of vetting everyone and having interviews and picking the right person for the job. Just wanted to put that out there.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
One other programming note. We have one more show next week.
Mm-hmm.
I already have our next guest.
Tease it.
That we share.
Get people excited. It's up to you.
Should I share? I'm trying to think. Should I share for next week? No, I'm not going to. But let's say he had a really nice year last year and he didn't start with the team. He did not start with the team on opening day. Okay? What are you laughing at?
That'll keep people on the edge of their seat. You could also just share who the next guest is.
No.
Okay.
No. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. So we'll be right back here on Thursday. Okay? Same time.
Okay. All right.
I got nothing else, Kyle. You good?
Nope. I'm good, man. Take care. Great week, and I'll see you soon.
And you really enjoyed our montage, which is great. Excellent work. Okay, Kyle.
No comment. Take care.
Goodbye, old friend.